morning and welcome to East Coast Church, those that are here in the room and those that are following us on Facebook today. The Lord gave me this word the other day, and he says, I've heard people say this, but then the title is, God, do you really hear me? Have you ever felt like that? That you're sending your prayers up, but you're not getting an answer? I know oftentimes life happens, and it gets chaotic, and we throw up that quick prayer, and we're hoping God might hear it. But you know what? God always hears our prayers. But we have to remember that it's not always us hearing from him. God wants to hear from you. He knows that he can take care of each of your needs, no matter what it is. We just have to believe that. Is there a healing that you're believing for in your life or someone in your family? And sometimes it seems to be getting worse. And you're going, Lord, you don't hear my prayers. I am praying for whomever that person is. But they're not getting better, they're getting worse. You're not listening to me, Lord. How about those relationships that seem to be getting worse and worse and worse? And you're going, but Lord, I want our family to be close. Why are the kids going off on their own? Why is that husband or wife doing what they're doing? Lord, I've been praying for them for a long time. God, you're not hearing me. How about those finances? Do you ever find the bills have piled up? And bills are coming in and the money's not there and things seem to keep going wrong and wrong and wrong. And you're like, Lord, I'm tithing. I'm giving. Why aren't you listening to me? Oh, Lord, and this virus thing that's out there. Can't you get rid of it? You know I've lost family members. You know people have different opinions and we're being pulled apart because we have different opinions. I've been praying about it. The kids can't go back to school. They have to wear a mask. Can't go to work because we're working from home. Lord, get rid of this virus. Why aren't you listening to us? Do you ever feel like God's not listening to you? Do you think that sometimes it's because we aren't listening and we're not still enough? Sometimes we get so busy in life that we don't just get still to hear from God. We have our day already planned out from the time we get up in the morning to the time we go to bed at night. And where are we going to fit God into that? It says in Psalm 46:10, be still and know, recognize, understand that I am God, and I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted on the earth. And that's what God wants. He wants to be exalted. But we have to hear from him before we can exalt him. He hears your prayers, and he wants to answer them. Do you think sometimes our prayers aren't answered and we don't think God's listening because we aren't really trusting him? We all have our own agenda. We think we know the best way to get things taken care of. In Psalm 3:5, it says, trust in the Lord and rely confidently on the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight and your own understanding. God's trying to speak to each of us. We have our prayers that we want answered, and he's trying to speak to us, but we need to hear from him. Do you think sometimes we don't like what he's telling us to do? Do you think we don't want to hear from him because he might want me to do this, but I really want to do it this way? God hears our prayers, but we need to hear from him. He says in Isaiah 55:8-9, and you guys hear me say this all the time, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. God wants to give you the answers to whatever your prayer request is. He loves you. And we're no different than the Israelites. I'd love to go back to them. They're such a good or bad example, however you want to look at it. In Exodus 14, the Israelites have been slaves for a long time. And God wants to pull them out. In verse 3, it says, "For God will say of the children of Israel, they are bewildered by the land, the wilderness has closed them in. Then this is the Lord speaking, then I will harden Pharaoh's heart, so that he will pursue them, and I will gain honor over over his army, knowing that I am the Lord." Now it was at the time, the king of Egypt, that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants were turned against the people, and they said, "Why have we gone this, that we have let Israel go from serving us?" The Egyptians were wondering why they let the Israelites go. Well, God had a hand in that. He knew what was going on. So in verse 6 it says, "So he made ready the chariot and took the people with him. Also he took 600 choice chariots and all the chariots of Egypt with the captains over every one of them. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he pursued the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went out with boldness." The children of Israel were going out of Egypt with boldness because God prepared them. But yet, they still cried out to God and still complained. Do you ever find yourself having an answer from God? Okay, Fly. And you're still complaining. Oh my goodness. But you know what? God, get rid of this fly. But and Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. So they were very afraid. And the children of Israel cried out to the Lord. Then they said to Moses, "Because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you dealt with us to bring up and out of Egypt? Is this not the word that we told you in Egypt, saying, 'Let us alone that we may serve the Egyptians'? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than we should die in the wilderness." These people, these Israelites, were not believing that God really had a plan. He didn't really have a plan. But God had a plan all along. Yes. He just had to get the Israelites to listen to him. They cried out, and they cried out. And when it was time to go across the Red Sea, God dried up the Red Sea. He pulled back the waters, and the sea was dry when the Israelites went across. Okay, that's so fine. But he had the Israelites go across on dry land. It wasn't even wet. And you would think after all those years of that water being down, when it came up, it would be wet. But God prepared the land for them to cross and to be saved from the Egyptians. God is going to take whatever your situation is. He is going to lift the waters. He's going to make a clear way for you. Yes. He has heard your prayers. He has heard your prayers. So don't think that he's not listening to you. I just want to encourage you to renew your mind with his word daily. Yes. Get in prayer. Get quiet. Hear from him. Get quiet because he's speaking to you. He loves you unconditionally. I was reading from a book called Pray Out the Plan by Marcus Tanker, and he says in there, "You are setting yourself up for disappointment if you run ahead of God and start writing out the plan instead of praying out the plan. The plan has already been written. It's your responsibility to pray it out and walk it out as it is revealed." So I want to encourage each of you, keep praying. Don't give up. God hears your prayers. But let God guide you, let God lead you, and you need to get quiet, and he will be there for you all along the way. So people on Facebook, have a blessed day. Pastor Jerry will be back soon.